Hey y'all, welcome back to Tutor Bros, and this is going to be working on another GRE problem. So this is another comparative GRE question that we're looking at. So what they're asking us here is to compare the x value to what 7 would be. So the first thing we need to do is understand, can we solve for x? What can we do with x? So what we do is we go back to the original starting point. So we're going to be looking at x square root of 0.09 is equal to 2, since that's our question. So they give us an equation which allows us to solve for. So what this does is we can now solve for x here. We can solve for x and get a value which will help us understand what we're going to be looking at, or what x value could be looking at. So the first thing I wanted to go ahead and say is, when I'm working these problems out, I want to look at anything that looks obscure to me, or anything that I can remotely work with itself. So the first thing I want to look at is the square root of 0.09. Now, when you're working these out, this may be useful benefit. I prefer working in fractions than working in decimals. So decimals can be a pain in the butt, only if you have your graphing calculator or a calculator. And in the GRE, you want to try to work things out as fast as possible. So I think mentally this may work faster than having to divide by certain things. I mean, if we go ahead and do it, then you can. But this is the way I would do it, fundamentally sound, to help speed up the process, in the sense that this will build up the techniques and noticing what to do first. So what I would look here is, I want to look at the square root of 0.09. Now what we can do is we can modify this, or we can change this to say the square root of 900ths. Now what I'm going to, from this 0.09, you can say that, I changed it to fraction by dividing a 9 out of 100ths, because this is tenths and this is hundreds. So we can divide by 9 out of 100ths. Now from here, using square root properties, we can divide this into multiple pieces to say square root of 9 divided by the square root of 100. Now from here, we can say that this would be 3 over 10. So what we can go ahead and say now is that we would have x 3/10, essentially multiplying, is equal to 2. Or the way I like to write it is 3x over 10, because they're essentially just multiplying one another. So the easiest way in order to solve this would be to take its reciprocal, or essentially just take its reciprocal. But in case you want to see it being done more, you want to multiply by the denominator to cancel this, which will give you 20, and then divide by 3. So the reciprocal would have just meant that you would have multiplied by 10/3. So the way to see it would have been to say by 10/3, and then to say 10/3, which is essentially what we're doing here. So you get 20 over 3, which if you really reduce it down, it becomes like 6.6, a couple more digits. So what we'll see from here is that now we know that x is 6.6. So we can essentially say, x is 6.6 or 6.7, just depending on how you're rounding. But the overall idea is, will it be less than, greater than, or equal to? Well, from here we know that 7 has to be greater than x. So in this case, that's the only answer choice you could choose, is that knowing that column A would be greater than column B. Usually it would be like A, depending on how the depending on how the answer choices come out to be. But if you have any more questions on any GRE concepts, or you have any questions on some fundamentals that you may need some help on, go ahead and leave us a comment or send us a message, and we'll try to help you as best as we can. Thanks a lot.